in the last couple of seasons. There's been big change-ups. Now, let's start to talk a little bit about these two rosters. Obviously, I'll just touch quickly on Sydney Drop Bears, bringing in Tita Watt. He's come through from Pacific Contenders as the main tank. They've lost Chrono Dota, but they have brought over another international talent. Excited to see what he's going to be able to do here against Mindfreak, who have made a lot of changes, so we'll talk about that in a bit.
We're starting off with our champions from 2018, the Sydney Drop Bears. They have yet to lose finals here in Contenders Australia. So how is 2019 going to work for them? Mindfreak going to be going up against them first. It's a 1-for-1, Ryan for Ryan. Who does that favour, Elfishguy? Potentially no one.
Well, potentially no one, but looking at some of the damage that's being done at the moment, I think Sydney Drop Bears are just slightly ahead in terms of the ultimate charge, so they may end up winning this war of attrition, even despite the fact that Mindfreak are the ones to get that first capture on the point. And also, Sydney Drop Bears managed to get their main tank back in the mix just a little bit earlier here than Davey was able to return.
Going to get back now onto the point, trying to contest. Mindfreak up to 13%. 6 on the point now from the Drop Bears. A Kraken has trans available. Mindfreak, on the other hand, have lost 3, 4, 5, 6 players. Easy does it.
And a big part of that for Sydney Drop Bears, like I said, was the fact that Tita Watt got back to that fight so much faster than what Davey did. Both of them went down at exactly the same time, so they should have been returning at the exact same time. But I think Sydney Drop Bears did a better job of taxiing their main tank back. They had better positioning on that point. Mindfreak trickles into them, and then obviously Sydney Drop Bears clean up a fairly confident fight. And now they are the ones that actually have a big advantage. They've got all of those ultimates available to them, and Mindfreak is just going to have to smash their face.
Yeah, Mindfreak coming back on public transport while the Drop Bears have a chauffeur. There we go, going to push this one through. Tita Watt going to come out with the Earth Shatter, looking to find some kills. The rest of the team will follow up. And unfortunately for Mindfreak, they're going to get caught a little bit far back right now.
Very unfortunately for Mindfreak as well. Addy throwing out a bit of a panic grab. A couple of players going down for Mindfreak before that Graviton Surge does get thrown. And while it did grab a few Sydney Drop Bears players, there was not enough follow-up to make real good usage of it. So Addy's really thrown his grab away. Huss still has one, and this next fight should definitely go the way of Sydney Drop Bears.
The grab coming out from the Drop Bears. What are they going to follow this up with right now? Look at this. The self-destruct comes through. Addy and Splitsaw both found out there. The rest of the team to follow up. Only the main tank here for the Drop Bears will go down, but it's at this point inconsequential. I'm enjoying here, by the way, Jordan, that the icons are popping up as well. Yeah,
definitely. Again, another change coming through from the previous season. It's a big new sort of fun season for us here, and especially as a caster, being able to see those icons is a big help.
Yeah.
But I think looking at this match right now, we're really just seeing the fundamentals that Sydney Drop Bears possess being so much better than Mindfreak, and that's to be expected. But right now, it's just not looking like Mindfreak's going to make some real inroads.
No, it's definitely a difficult first matchup here for Mindfreak. We'll see what they can do this time around. Earth Shatter comes through, but it's Davey who's caught out there by CKM. Bertlog follows up as well. Kraken pushing through with a beautiful Transcendence. And as you can see, as we were talking before, as the ultimate is in effect, that little tick for the ultimate becoming available then turns into a picture of the ultimate itself. So I'm really enjoying that. It makes it much easier as a viewer. You can hear Huss throwing out the Graviton Surge for the sake of it as well. And a quick 100-21 coming out for the Sydney Drop Bears to start things off here on Lijiang Tao, puts them 1-0.
Yeah, pretty straightforward stuff for Sydney Drop Bears. I mean, they did drop that initial fight, but basically from the second fight onwards, Sydney Drop Bears were really dictating how that one would go. And even in towards that final fight, toward the end of the percentages, Mindfreak, they did come in with a bit of an ultimate advantage, but Sydney Drop Bears have both of their support ultimates available. They have the perfect counterplay. Bertlog and a Kraken, they know each other very well, and they don't double up on ultimates, and they just make sure that their entire team is kept alive. And Mindfreak, even despite throwing so much in there, you know, using that self-destruct to provide some space, following up with a couple of their own ultimates, they just weren't able to get enough done in Sydney Drop Bears. I think that's a really good performance from them to start things off. Mindfreak, with this new roster, they're going to need some time to gel, and I don't know if up against Sydney Drop Bears is the ideal time to be starting to gel.
Yeah, it's definitely a trial by fire here. Control point will unlock in 15 seconds. Christoph gets DMAC, but Davey comes out. Not a bad start here at all for Mindfreak. If they continue in this fashion, they should be able to pick up a victory, at least to grab the point to start things off. And look, they haven't lost anyone yet as well, so no concerns about people getting back into the fight. Davey pushing a long way forward, trying to caused a bit of a ruckus in the back line, to be fair, being quite successful.
Davy's definitely done a lot of work in that last fight. I think it's really on Sydney Drop Bears there. What happened was they kind of split up a little bit, whether it was of their own volition or if they got booped out of position. I do see a pick there going on to Addy, though, so this gives Sydney Drop Bears an actual chance to re-aggress a little bit earlier than they should have been able to.
Davey sitting with the Earth Shatter, tries to walk in behind the shield. Whatever happened there, he was unsuccessful. Will go down. Slitzel traded out as well. CKM doing what he can, but it's not going to be enough potentially. The Drop Bears sitting on the point. Mindfreak doing what they can to stall, but eventually the Drop Bears will bring this one back across. Mindfreak, however, should be happy with 34%.
Yeah, really good awareness from Sydney Drop Bears, knowing that with that pick from Addy, they can push on forward, and then some nice little individual prowess. I think it was from Bertlog getting the boop onto Davey, pushes him out of position as the ultimate's coming down, as the Earth Shatter's coming through, and as a result, Davey doesn't actually hit anything with that Earth Shatter, so being able to charge it up in one fight, totally irrelevant here for Mindfreak, and Sydney Drop Bears, they're back in leading position. Yeah,
Drop Bears with 5 ultis available. CKM will pop that rally as well. Mindfreak do the same. Goobs throws out the Transcendence. Graviton Surge coming out from Mindfreak as well. Davey's going to go down there to the Drop Bears. Shoyo's been traded out, but the Drop Bears still in prime position. They'll now be level on percentage points here on the cap. And look at this, they're in such prime position as well. It's very difficult for Mindfreak to push through from here.
Well, this is going perfectly for Sydney Drop Bears. Tita Watt using his Earth Shatter in that last fight, already back up to 76% here. So he's had a really big impact on the last one. Now currently almost beating Davey again for those ultimate charges.
Trent's going to come through from a Kraken aggressively here, trying to make the most of this. Davey will find CKM. That's not half bad. A good Earth Shatter coming out from him eventually will go down to the support there of a Kraken. The Drop Bears slowly falling back now, up to 63%. Christoph has the self-destruct available, but the Mindfreak team will push on to the point and do so without really losing anything at all. That was quite an impressive fight win coming out from them.
Yeah, it was a good Earth Shatter from Tita Watt, but it was an even better one from Davey. Both Reinhardt's putting in some work right now for their team, but Mindfreak, yeah, off the back of that fantastic shatter from Davey, are able to recapture the point and at least contest here against Sydney Drop Bears.
Aggressive grab comes through from Mindfreak, but they are taking quite a bit of damage. Tita Watt is low. Kraken still waiting to get back onto his ulti. The charge not going to work there from Tita Watt either. And Mindfreak are starting to find some picks. This is actually a little bit exciting now, Jordan. The Mindfreak team really are sort of taking it to the Drop Bears.
Yeah, definitely. Sydney Drop Bears getting a taste of their own medicine here as Davey is absolutely putting on a display right now with that Reinhardt being able to get some two big shatters in a row, keeping Mindfreak alive right now. Here comes the Graviton Surge from Huss, and this might be the straw that breaks the camel's back for Mindfreak.
Self-destruct in the middle finds Addy. Davey's gone down as well. This is less than ideal for Mindfreak. They're up to 83% right now. The Drop Bears should be able to push onto the point and do so quite aggressively. Be able to bring it back at about 90% right now. For Mindfreak, they're going to have an opportunity to try and capture once again. We take a look at the ultimate charge though, Jordan. What do you think?
Well, right now you have to be favouring Sydney Drop Bears, don't you? Mindfreak don't really have anything, and they don't really have anything coming up in the immediate future. Given how close Sydney Drop Bears are to that 100%, there's really only one more fight here for Mindfreak. So I think at this point we're relying on a big grab out from Addy, and that's pretty much all they're going to have. Transcendence will keep them alive, but look at what Sydney Drop Bears have got to play with.
Yeah, the Trans going to be popped immediately there by a Kraken. Tita Watt throws out the Reinhardt ultimate as well. That Earth Shadow doing a bit of damage. The rest of the team will follow up. Damage across the board. Graviton Surge comes through. Look, it's a sound barrier. It's a last-ditch effort, and it's not going to be enough here. The Sydney Drop Bears should pick up Li Zhangtao 2-0, but Mindfreak giving them something to think about. Yeah, a little bit to think about. I wouldn't be overly concerned there if I was Sydney Drop Bears, especially in that last fight. They knew exactly what they needed to be doing. You see, obviously, Addy coming up on that grab, but Sydney Drop Bears, they take that fight on their own terms. They push forward. They get the Earth Shatter down before Addy even has charged up the Graviton Surge, and as a result, by the time he does actually get to use it, 2 of his teammates are already dead, and the fight's already won by Sydney Drop Bears. So just the fundamentals so far today from Sydney Drop Bears looking a lot better than what Mindfreak are able to show us. Yeah. But as I said earlier, that's to be expected. This Sydney Drop Bears roster has been together since the start of Season 3, obviously with the exception of Tita Watt. I do want to question that as well, right? Because it feels like to me the one area where maybe the Drop Bears is still starting to find their ribbon is of course with their main tank here. Yeah, look, I mean, for Tita Watt, obviously this is kind of a new scenario for him. I don't believe he's actually playing in Australia. I believe he's playing still from
back home in Pacific. I think he's from Thailand, so I believe he's still in Thailand. I'm not 100% sure on that. If that is the case, then obviously there's something to speak about from that as well. But regardless, you know, it is going to take you a little bit of time to get used to a new main tank. Let's
be real. Do the drop bears even know how to play with a main tank in the same country as the rest of the team?
That's the real question, isn't it? They haven't for the last couple of seasons. Davey, in particular, has been getting himself into some really nice positions, so credit to him as well. Obviously, he's been doing a big amount of work and has been, in a sense, almost outplaying Titawatt. But I think at the moment, it's kind of going either way between the two main tanks. You know, Titawatt's had a couple of great Earth Shatters as well, so I don't think we can necessarily look at him as being a weak link or anything like that for Sydney Drop Bears right now. Besides, they won that 2-0. They won it comfortably. For Mindfreak, you know, obviously they've got almost a completely new roster. You've got Christoph coming through from last season. You've got Goobs coming through from last season, but in a new position. I believe he's now aim support instead of main support. All those other players, we've seen them all before, but this is a completely new roster. So it is going to definitely take time for Mindfreak to sort of work through what they want to be doing, and especially against a team like Sydney Drop Bears, you really can't be making little mistakes because Sydney Drop Bears is going to punish you, and that's exactly what we saw in our first map.
And again, a Mindfreak roster that almost didn't make it through at all, almost didn't make it through trials, so only getting in here by the skin of their teeth. That's all you need to do, but now you need to prove that you deserve to be here and prove that you can make it through to finals this time around. Yeah,
definitely lots to play for this season when we look toward those international events that the Contenders teams are sort of trying to aim for. Obviously, one team from Australia are going to be potentially the team to represent us. I don't know who it's going to be. In the end, we're looking toward probably Sydney Drop Bears and Order. But for teams like Mindfreak, you know, in seasons down the track, that's obviously something that they want to be looking to. For this season, I think it's really just a case of trying to stay in Contenders, trying to work together as a roster and trying to improve. But certainly for the teams up toward the top end of things, they really want to be making sure that they put their best foot forward this season, because I think this season matters more than any other season has thus far. Yeah,
there is a lot more at stake here in 2019, and it's actually quite an exciting opportunity for all of these 8 teams here in this group here in Australia. Look, we'll have to see how it plays out. We're heading across to Eichenwald. Eichenwald's going to be the hybrid map that we play all week long, so that's exciting. We can get a bit of a feel as well for how these teams are progressing on maps that they know are going to be maps that they have to play.
Well, the one thing I like about this format where the teams are kind of forced to play each map, it means that the map pool is obviously quite larger, not only because the map pool is larger just by the fact that there's a lot more maps available, but it means that every team has to play it. We don't get a scenario like last season where we almost always play Route 66 for those escorts.
You get to the end of the season and half the teams have not played half the maps.
Exactly. There was a case where Sydney Drop Bears had not at all played. I think it was Dorado was the other map in that sort of section. And they had not played a single game of Dorado all season. But now this season, they're going to have to be strong on all 3 maps of every single stage. So they're going to have to be good on Lijiang, Kale, Nepal, and Oasis, Eichenwald, Kings Road, Blizzard World, all the way down through the map pool. So there's nothing that you can sort of say, okay, we'll use this as sort of like a perma-veto map or something like that. You have to practice everything.
And then we also had teams that were struggling through the season who literally played when it got to map 2, map 3, map 4, because they were losing map 1 and they were rarely picking up other maps. They just played the same maps over and over and over again. And look, I guess there's some pros to that, but there's also quite a number of cons. So we'll follow this one out. The Sydney Drop Bears coming out on attack. We're going to have a change up quite quickly there as well. With Titawatt changing across to Winston.
Yeah, nice, interesting setup as well here for the defense coming out from Mindfreak, and that's part of the reason why Titawatt's gone over to Winston here. I think Winston does have a little bit of a better matchup into the kind of more divier comps, which is kind of what Mindfreak is running here. And obviously Davey going down early on in the piece, that's definitely not a great start for Mindfreak. You need to be keeping your main tank alive. Even if they do trade out Huss for it, it's still a main tank down.
Yeah.
Which is the backbone of your lineup.
Yeah, well, with Huss going down there and not being able to pick up Slidsaw J, it's going to be a little bit more difficult now for the team from the Drop Bears to deal with this pharmacy combo. Try and push themselves out. To the point, having said that, they find 1/3, 41.3%. Not an awful start.
Well, the one saving grace there for Mindfreak is that it was Huss that went down, and that gave Slidsaw J so much more room to work with. You saw Shoyo trying to put pressure onto Slidsaw J, but without that extra damage from the McCree, Slidsaw J was fairly safe. It's not that easy to deal with the Pharah on your own as a diva. And again, for Mindfreak, being able to actually survive for that first fight now does give them a much better situation heading into these next few fights, and gives them a chance of actually holding the point A. You look at the ultimates that they're going to have available here, and EMP is going to be huge if Addy can get it.
Yeah, waiting up to 92% right now. Very, very close is Addy. Davey at 50%. Slidsaw J J goes down. No rocket barrage available right there. Both Titawat and a Kraken were low. Swilko picks Slitsaw J up and immediately taken back down by Haas. Haas doing huge amounts of work. The EMP will come through, but it's a little bit too little, too late in my mind.
Yeah, and again, it's just the fundamentals from Sydney Drop Bears playing to their win conditions. Haas, fantastic work individually, mechanically being able to get that pick to start things off onto Slitsaw J. But as soon as they get that pick, they force their way forward. The res comes out from Mindfreak, but it's instantly denied again by Haas. Then he doubles down with the ultimate, and now they continue to push on forward. They're continuing to use their advantages and keep that pressure onto Mindfreak. And it really even forces out some of the mistakes from Mindfreak there, where they try to get the EMP out, try to turn it around for Addy. Doesn't work at all, and so they waste the EMP. Now he's forced off to Desire. Fair enough, makes sense after you use that EMP, but you just got to think, if Mindfreak had another 10 seconds there to farm up that EMP before Slitsaw J got picked, what a different fight that could have been.
Oh man, Haas really going to town right then on Slitsaw J. Great work as the payload continues into the second phase of the map. Slitsaw taking a bit of damage once more. Swilko will pop the ultimate there on the Mercy. Slitsaw eventually does go down, looking for a Deadeye kill. Just perhaps zoning for now. Davey Goobs both picked up. The Drop Bears progressing through almost uncontested here on the payload.
Yeah, definitely.
Objective B.
Mindfreak need to find a way to sort of re-establish themselves here into Phase B of the map, because right now they don't have control at all of anything. They need to work their way out of those choke points, and that is going to be so tough here against Sydney Drop Bears. You can see Titawat's got a good position. He gets the bubble on top of all of them, and Sydney Drop Bears is just going to collapse into Mindfreak here.
Self-destruct comes through. Addy will go down. Trance is popped as well. Davey low. Self-destruct aggressively used now by the Drop Bears. And maybe that, sorry, was from Christoph. I apologize on Mindfreak, but it's not going to get the results that they need. Haas will finish off Christoph with the Deadeye. Objective B has been successfully obtained here with the payload. Heading towards the third and final objective right now. 4:20 on the clock. That is a ton of time.
Certainly is, and it looks like Haas has gone back, and he has indeed to swap off onto the Zaya, so we're going to get a little bit more of a standards GOATS composition coming in here. Titawat as well going over to the Reinhardt. That makes a lot of sense here into the third phase of the map. There's no real reason to be sticking with the McCree and to be sticking with the Winston when the Reinhardt Zaya combination is going to be so strong in these close quarters. And Haas, we know, is a very, very strong Zaya, so probably will be able to charge this Graviton Surge up relatively quickly before that time bank even ends.
Transcendence going to come out from Goobs, countered here by Bertlog and the Sound Barrier. The payload just paused for now. Davey staying alive as well, doing what he can with that shield. Eventually, Titawat actually gets in there and picks Davey up. Must have been coming through with the hammer. Goobs, Slitsaw J both picked up. The payload will progress ever quicker now as one by one Mindfreaks start to go down.
And here's what I'm talking about. 70% of that Graviton Surge has been charged up in one fight there from Haas. Titawat onto the Reinhardt already has his Earth Shatter as well, so those swaps really not being too much of a problem at all for Sydney Drop Bears, and this is the push where they should make it work. They've got what they need. The Self-Destruct's coming up soon, the Graviton Surge coming up soon.
Oh no. Going to get booped out of the way as the Earth Shatter comes through. That one works out, however. Titawat is knocked down. Transcendence coming out from a Kraken. The payload very, very close. Mindfreak used the grab with the self-destruct, looking for kills. Finds a Kraken. That's not bad. Need to follow it up with more. Davey goes down. That's a one-for-one trade. Who is more valuable in this situation? I would suggest it's the Reinhardt.
Yep, absolutely right, Ben. At this point, look at how much work Titawat is being able to put in. He's almost got another Earth Shatter up. Does get knocked down, though, by Christoph. That's a big pick for Mindfreak. If he was allowed to survive for another 5 seconds, that could have spelt the end of the map for Mindfreak. They are going to be able to force Sydney Drop Bears back away at least one more time.
At least one more shot here to continue this defense. Mindfreak, of course, with the defender's spawn advantage heading towards Objective C. When it comes to ultimates, Titawat does have that Earth Shatter available. The rest of the team, though, a little bit low in terms of ultimate charge. Bertlog about to come out as well. On the other side of things, Mindfreak about to find themselves with 2 ultimates also, but neither of those are on their supports. Can the Drop Bears get through with one big Sound Barrier? Well, it's one big Reinhardt Earth Shatter actually is going to find a decent start, but the Drop Bears follow through with all of the damage.
Yeah, not only the damage there, but also the shields. Bertlog, you have to give credit there, avoiding the Earth Shatter. He saves his team, and he also is a big reason now why they've been able to finish it off right here and now. That was a good Earth Shatter out from Davey, but the fact that it doesn't hit Bertlog, it doesn't stop that sound barrier from coming down is exactly what keeps the Sydney Drop Bears alive. CKM, on the skin of his teeth, does manage to survive through that fight. He was so low for the longest of times, but Sydney Drop Bears, they keep their players alive and they're able to take that fight victory fairly comfortably in the end. Pretty good map out from them so far. 1:42 in that time bank. You'd be happy with that as Sydney Drop Bears. Maybe you could argue they would have wanted a little bit more. They were going pretty quickly through the first 2 phases of the map, but things do tend to slow down toward the 3rd phase of the map when we do come into things like hybrid and
about 2.5
escort.
minutes there at the end to get through that last part. But I think overall, not that bad at all from the Drop Bears. Mindfreak, though, 1:42, that's not... it's not an unbeatable time, that's for sure.
Well, you say that. It's not an unbeatable time, certainly not. But you have to remember they're playing up against Sydney Drop Bears. And I think it's a very foreboding time when you're facing the best team in the region. To even be able to finish the map here for Mindfreak, I think is going to be a very, very difficult task. So Sydney Drop Bears, we know how strong they are, generally speaking, on the defense. In my mind, this should now be their map. But it really... The onus is now on Mindfreak to perform. We need to see what they've got available for us. We've seen that they can win fights against Sydney Drop Bears, but the thing is going to be stringing multiple fights together. It's all well and good to win one fight, cap out point A, but if you get instantly stalled under the gate here heading into Phase B of the map, then it's not going to be a particularly enjoyable situation for Mindfreak.
Exactly. You lose the first fight or two quite convincingly. All of a sudden, your opponents have that ultimate advantage. They're on the defense, and we know the Drop Bears very much are comfortable in using their ultimates effectively, efficiently, and that's what this GOATS comp is all about. Let's see how it plays out for them. Mindfreak going to push through with the Reinhardt. The Drop Bears going to pull out Winston instead. Let's see which one comes out on top.
Yeah, Tita just needing to back away there. Does get dropped relatively low, which is going to give Mindfreak a little bit of room to move. Shoyo, though, somehow finds Goobs.
Of course he does. Will get traded back, at least the mech does, though that's a start coming up from Mindfreak. Davey going to go down, and that's probably going to be the end of that. The rest of the team going to have to fall back towards spawn.
Pretty standard stuff for Sydney Drop Bears. Now it's the cleanup. The push forwards, making sure that Mindfreak are, being costed seconds extra. It might not sound like much, but an extra 5 seconds here or there because you find another pick is potentially going to make a big difference later on down the map. Maybe that's the difference between getting a touch onto the point and getting it into overtime and not.
Remember how many bad contests you see because no one has time left and they're forced, to trance their way onto the point or something absurd. So it definitely can make a big difference. Mindfreak going to reset, 250 on the clock, pushing through again. Addy already taking a ton of damage very early, going to go down. It's actually Tita coming through the Primal Rage. But 2 big, quick picks come through from Mindfreak, but it won't matter. The Drop Bears followed up with 2 of their own. Perhaps Mindfreak just pushing a little bit too far forward there, trying to find what they can. Unfortunately, this time around, it won't be enough.
It didn't look like a great situation for Sydney Drop Bears at the start, did it? Where Tita, he was kind of stuck in there, but what Mindfreak, or what even I failed to realize, is that he had Primal Rage, and as soon as he gets into that 1000 HP Raging Monkey mode, he's able to completely clean up Mindfreak. Now they push in with a lot of ultimates, though, so this is a good chance for Mindfreak here. Yeah,
this is the one they need to win. Bertlog about to have Sound Barrier, however, the Drop Bears, between their 2 support ultimates, will this be enough with a little bit of smart play? Self-destruct, Transcendence all coming through. Over the top, doesn't find anyone. Transpop by Goobs, that's going to finish up. Christoph going to get D-Mech. Davey still alive, though, still 6 and 6 right now. But one of those teams has a Baby Diva. Grab going to come out now from Mindfreak. Kraken tries to counter with the Transcendence at CKM. The first one down. Mindfreak with a little bit of an advantage here as well. Maybe with that spawn, this could be enough. Sound Barrier going to come out from the Drop Bears. CKM going to start making his way back through. Another self-destruct coming, looking for kills, but it's Tita here. The Primal Rage is available. Before it was so effective. Can he use it again to its full potential?
Oh, I thought he was almost going to be able to boot Davey off the edge there, but in the end, the power of numbers is going to be just a little bit too much for Sydney Drop Bears to deal with. There was moments where it looked like maybe they could hold on 5v6. It was a nice sound barrier out from Bertlog, a decent Primal Rage there from Tita, but in the end, having that extra player on the field for Mindfreak and Sydney Drop Bears not being able to equalize that in that kind of a situation, eventually the war of attrition is going to favor Mindfreak there, putting out more heals there, doing more damage, and the longer that fight goes, the more favorable it is for Mindfreak. So that's why it's so important in those 5v6 situations to be focusing down that next target, to be the one that gets the next pick so that you can start to equalize and maybe even turn it around. But here into Phase B of the map, Mindfreak The work has to continue.
It does indeed. 3:10 now on the clock. Addy goes down. Goobs does pop the Transcendence, but unfortunately just a little bit late. And Kraken uses a trance of his own. Davey goes down as well. And this first push towards Objective B will get stopped in its tracks. The Drop Bears going to follow them all the way through to the spawn as well, just to see if they can find anyone else. See if they can slow it down just a little bit. You can see Titawat has swapped across to the Reinhardt here already. Almost has that Earth Shatter available.
Yeah, and you can see how aggressive and confident Sydney Drop Bears are being right now. Titawat continues to want to push forward. Earth Shatter,
man.
Not sure that hit too many players, but there is a Graviton Surge out from Sydney Drop Bears that's going to hit everyone. And it'll be another fairly clean wipeout for Sydney Drop Bears. They will have to back up a little bit here though, Ben. So at the end of the day, that's actually not a bad fight for Mindfreak. Because they get that pick onto Titawat, they at least have to allow Mindfreak out of their spawn now.
Yeah, exactly. They got the pick, they took a couple of ultis, and they fought the fight at their spawn, which means they lost no time pushing out. It was the fight's over, the fight's over. No running time wasted. It allows them to get onto the payload here. Addy does have the grab available, uses it almost immediately, follows it up with a bit of damage. Titawat goes down. Christoph finds 2 kills as well. Mindfreak now going to start getting a roll on. But really, how big is a roll on when all you're doing is getting the payload going?
I still don't even think that's necessarily a poor result for Sydney Drop Bears. I don't think they're going to be disappointed by losing that fight. I mean, I guess, yes, you would be disappointed. You would love to win it. But at the end of the day, they don't go into that. They don't really use too many ultimates there. And that's kind of what we talk about when we usually hit the phase B of certain maps. Things like Hollywood, even things like Eichenwald here, for example. If you can get a fight at the very start of that point, you can usually string together 3 fights for that entire phase. So Sydney Drop Bears have managed to do that. They've got that first fight. Yeah, they lost it, but it also cost Mindfreak quite a few big ultimates. Cost them the Graviton Surge, it cost them the self-destruct. So they're already out with a bit of a net positive heading into phase B of the map.
The difference for us, of course, was that when the Drop Bears were in that exact same position, you could see it was Huss pushing a long way forward. He found the Ana, he pushed through, did a lot of damage, as did the rest of the team. And essentially, the second phase, they're on Eichenwald on attack for the Drop Bears. It lasted like a minute, right? It just, the payload barely stopped. Yeah,
exactly. And that's what you need to be doing. If you're winning that first fight really cleanly on point A, if you can push forward, if you can really put pressure on the respawns, catch those players out when they're out of position, and then obviously Sydney Drop Bears there, they were able to do that, and they were able to reap the benefits from that. Mindfreak didn't really win as cleanly on point A, which meant that they couldn't push far forward into phase B of the map before Sydney Drop Bears got set up. But now we've seen that first fight go the way of Mindfreak. They need to win another, probably 2 more here, depending on where Sydney Drop Bears decide to take this fight. But again, for Mindfreak, that time bank is such a factor right now.
Yeah, the main kicker here, the main problem perhaps for Mindfreak is that Swilko has really not got much to work with here when it comes to that sound barrier, whilst the Drop Bears have 2 to work with. They actually use both of them at the same time, Jordan. I'm not sure if that was necessary.
Maybe not. Maybe not. Sydney Drop Bears are cleanly wiping this fight though, so CKM getting involved with the Brigitte. All in all, it's really, really nice.
Very aggressive though. Look at this. They're going to push them all the way back to the spawn once again.
Well, we're basically back to square one now because Sydney Drop Bears has won that fight without dropping a single player. They can do this forward hold. And Mindfreak, well, they now need to win again another probably 3 fights. But look at the time that they've got on the board. 45 seconds. This is looking like this is where map 2 is going to end.
Huss sitting up here with the grab available. The question is, can he use it without D.Va finding the right click? Titawat has an ultimate available as well. Grab going to come out very, very quickly there. The rest of the team follows up. Slithor J goes down. Davey comes through as well. Now 20 seconds on the clock. Mindfreak needs to get eliminated as quickly as possible for one last good shot. Not only do they need to win this fight, they need to get onto the payload. Yeah, and that is probably going to be the job of Swilko here. Maybe Christoph, but I think you'd be sending the Lucio forward if anyone. Oh, look at that. Look, maybe the Brigitte can't knock through shields anymore, Jordan.
Swilko's still alive.
But it doesn't matter if you come through the other side. Well,
Swilko's on the payload.
That's great. Just rollerblading around. Good job, Swilko.
Well, someone had to do it, right? But it's unfortunately not going to matter for Mindfreak. As the second map is going to go the way of Sydney Drop Bears fairly comfortably once again.
I love that. The Brigitte lurking from behind, coming through with the shield bash. you don't need to get through the shield if you're behind the Reinhardt. Earthshatter comes over the top. See you later.
Yeah, exactly. See you later. And then, of course, the self-destruct to follow up on top of that as well. So it was sort of all working in unison for Sydney Drop Bears, which is what we've come to expect from them. A very, very coordinated roster and one of the now longer-standing rosters within the region, as they've been together since the start of Season 3, more or less, and they've been able to really reap rewards from that as well, as they've got that synergy down pat, which is definitely still something that Mindfreak is looking for.
The benefit of obviously being in finals and having that boot camp, it's one thing to keep a roster all season long, but if you make it to finals and you get the benefit of that real true boot camp and what that, both in camaraderie and just ability, I suppose, the team cohesion, there's a lot to be gained from that. So they're in a very strong position, obviously, right now.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why I kind of feel a little bit sorry for Mindfreak here, having to start your season as what would be considered maybe the weakest team or perhaps the second weakest team here, depending on your assumptions based on legacy versus Mindfreak. Let's say bottom 2 team within AU Contenders. I think that much is fair to say here for Mindfreak.
I would imagine, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but week 1 we're starting off with opposite seeding, right? Seed 1 versus Seed 8, Seed 2 versus Seed 7. That's my suspicion.
Yeah, so I mean, on paper, we're looking at a bottom 2 team versus a top 1 team. I think at this point, it's fair to say that Sydney Drop Bears do deserve to be named the best team in the region. So it's a very, very difficult task here for Mindfreak, and they obviously need to
look at that play.
Probably try and focus on some of the next few matches.
To me there at the end, just in case they needed the extra armor, right? Might as well throw out the queue.
Why not?
Why not?
Makes you run faster as Brigitte. You want to run fast because you want to be getting.
That's how you get all the kills, mate. That's how you get all the like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, look, it's a difficult task for Mindfreak. That much is fair to say. So expectations going into this match are obviously not going to be high for them. I think you just take this one on the chin. You think, okay, we've probably lost this one. Admittedly, right now, they haven't lost it. It's still 2-0. Still winnable for Mindfreak.
They can pick up the next 2 matches.
Don't want to get too far ahead of myself.
It's by design a very tough first match for Mindfreak here. So it really is, what can they get out of this? How can they gel together as a team in a very tough matchup? Can they pick up a map? Can they really take it to the Drop Bears? It's a tough question.
And with that said as well, it means that you get the difficult task out of the way at the start of the season, so you can sort of, I think, and that's kind of nice in a way, because toward the end of the season, that's really when you want to be peaking, because that's when we're looking toward playoffs, we're looking towards finals. If you're peaking toward the end of the season, if your momentum's going well, if the team's in good spirits, you win your last 2 games of the season, you're not really thinking about maybe the theoretical 0-4 that you got to Sydney Drop Bears 7 weeks ago, because remember how long this season is. That's a long time ago. You're not going to be concerned about that. So once you're in playoffs, once you're rolling on the ball pretty well, I think that could be much nicer for Mindfreak. But obviously, that's a long way down the track, and they right now need to focus on this match.
Well, Jordan, it's halftime here between 2018 champions, the Sydney Drop Bears, and Mindfreak G, and we'll be back right after this very quick break.